police department?
Yes, I just saw someone jump out of their window out of probably the 17th, 19th floor of the University Club Tower apartments at 17th and Denver.
The name of that place is University
Club. The glass broke and he fell down.
Okay,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17th floor.
Wow, 17th floor. All right, sir. We got help on the way then.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
One-third of the world's female prison population is in America.
I shot my husband. I'm in here for shooting my husband.
30,000 of them are serving long sentences for murder.
I pushed him against the wall and he... Oh my God.
It's either about power, money, sex, or abuse.
I went in and shot him and left again.
You can't tell me that I would kill a man in the only carpeted room in the house. I mean, come on, I'm a woman.
Unlike men, female killers tend to know their victims. They're usually their partners or loved ones.
I did not murder him. I loved him.
So what pushes ordinary women to commit the ultimate act of violence?
All it takes is one time for you to lose control of your emotions and something bad can happen.
How does a moment of madness become murder?
I had blood just all over me. Yeah, I beat her to death.
Some days it feels like a million years ago, and you feel like this part of your life has been your whole life, because it's a whole nother world. I mean, you have to be a whole nother person in here. A whole nother person.
Amber Hilberling is serving a 25-year sentence for murdering her husband.
I think about Josh every day. He was charming and irritating and smart and funny and annoying, and he was a good man. He was all these things that I'm not, and I'm all these things he wasn't, and we complimented each other, even though we drove each other crazy because of it.
It was a toxic love. It was a dangerous love, but it was love.
We weren't blind to the fact that we probably shouldn't be together. I mean, we talked about it often, but you can't help who you love.
As soon as she got pregnant, Amber became a totally different girl. All of the childish things stopped. And sadly, for Josh, they didn't.
When Amber was 19, a year after getting married, she and Josh moved into a temporary apartment in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
We were in Tulsa because he had gotten kicked out of the Air Force for drug abuse, and he just got back into the old stuff. I mean, he started doing drugs again. He started wanting to sell drugs again, and I was just sad and disappointed and angry, and that caused for the fighting and the, everything that happened that shouldn't have happened.
The glass broke and he fell down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17th floor.
I got a call of a possible DOA, which is dead on arrival. We didn't know if we had a suicide or an accident or exactly what had happened.
It was a domestic case. It was a falling case from a very high distance, and you don't see that very often.
I got here, I got out of my car, was directed to the 8th floor parking level.
When somebody falls from that far, he's really broken. They just look like clothes on the ground. But you could tell that was a human being at one time, and that kind of makes an impression upon you. The crime scene was up on the 25th floor, so we had to ride the elevator and go up. The apartment, as I walked in the door, struck me as very clean, not in disarray at all. Everything seemed to be in order, but as you walk through the corridor to get into the apartment was a duffel bag, and that struck me as odd. That's the only thing that was really out of place, other than as you walked in, you could see a window that obviously had been broke. I didn't spend a lot of time there because I don't like heights, but when I looked out the window, you could tell that it was a long distance and that Mr. Hilberling had a little bit of time to think about what the hell was going to happen to him down there when he landed.
At the scene, police found Josh's wife, Amber. She'd already made a phone call to her grandmother.
Amber was standing over there, and when she seen me, she grabbed a hold of me and said, "Grandma, he's dead." And she said, and I pushed him, and I said, "Do what?"
Well, Amber Hilberling was going to be the focal point of our investigation, one way or the other, as a witness or a suspect. I did learn early on that there was some allegation that she was saying she pushed him.
Amber and her grandmother were driven to Tulsa Police Station to make a statement.
They put me in the front seat. I wasn't under arrest. And let my grandma come and sit in the interview room. Of course, I thought they were just being the good guys and wanted the truth.
This is the interview room that I put Amber and her grandma in when we got down here.
What happened in that room over the next 62 minutes would change the course of Amber Hilberling's life.
This is a room where we can sit, we can watch on television monitors, we can observe the people in the rooms to make sure that they don't need any relief break or anything to drink or something like that. We can kind of watch them and listen to them.
All I kept seeing, I just held his broken body.
While this was going on, I was just writing my reports and started overhearing some of this stuff and had the recorder turned on so we could start recording the information that she was saying.
At least if I can go back and take back the push, at least I can save him.
The push?
The push, I pushed him against the wall and he, oh my God.
Many times in that room, when we ask questions, we get just bold-faced lies. But when you're talking to your grandmother, you can pretty much think you're getting true stuff.
I killed him.
Stop talking like that.
That is probably the most truthful that I've seen anybody be in that room.
He was messing with the TV right here, and the window's right here, and I pushed him and he fell into the window and fell. Oh God.
In my mind, it turned from an accidental falling out a window or a suicide attempt to an actual murder investigation. Right when I got there and people said, she said this, I pushed him out the window.
Amber, quit saying you pushed him out the window.
And the grandmother saying, watch what you're saying, is a big part of that.
Amber, he's in God's hands right now. The part that I blame myself is I couldn't save her from the hell that she's went through.
I'm so sorry.
I cannot get past her. Grandma, help me. Grandma, take me home. That will always stick with me because Grandma couldn't take her home.
Throughout their conversation, Amber and her grandmother were unaware they were being recorded.
God, why did I do that?
I was angry that you could do that to somebody. You're supposed to be read your rights in America. You have the right to this and the right to this and right. They didn't do any of that.
I just want to go back. Please, I just want to go back and just not Not push him, just catch him with something.
I'm in shock, and I'm going back and forth in my mind between this is what just happened, and this is why, and this is what's gonna happen afterwards. And I mean, all these things are kind of coming out of my mouth at once.
When they come in, say, I don't want to say nothing till my attorney gets here.
If you have a camera in front of you with a blinking light on, you assume that it's recording. But if it's a hidden camera and you don't know what's there, it's hidden for a reason.
We have to do what we have to do. The law allows us to do that. We did it.
I just want to be with Josh.
Something happened in that room where he ended up dead. And she caused that.
Bombshell tonight. Witnesses say they see 23-year-old Josh Hilberling fall from the couple's high-rise. 25 stories to his death. But tonight, cops say it was no accident. There was no fall. His new bride pushed him to his death.
In the year following Josh Hilberling's death, a media frenzy engulfed the prime suspect, his wife, Amber.
What a gorgeous couple. They had everything to live for, and she is 7 months pregnant. But his family is now saying that she was a domestic abuser against him and that she pushed him.
America's about catching headlines. It's not about the truth. No one wants the truth. They want a story.
What we've got evidence of is that she was into domestic violence.
News outlets started to expose the details of a relationship that wasn't as perfect as it seemed.
A protective order was filed against the wife by the husband just weeks before he fell to his death.
It's very unusual to see a man claim he is being abused.
They painted me as some sort of aggressor that Josh had fear of in the past, but the people didn't see the police reports of my injuries and my fear and his abuse.
There was a time when we flew her home. They had gotten in a fight. He had squeezed her breasts trying to break her implants. He even said that on the police report, and when she got home, she still had red marks on her breast. You know, there had to be some force. He's certainly not going to say it was 100% one-sided, but there are certainly enough evidence that he was the instigator on numerous occasions.
Amber was painted as like a horrible, spoiled, rich spouse abuser. Josh was painted as a military hero. He got kicked out of the military for manufacturing drugs, and no one knows that. When I tell people he got kicked out within 9 months of serving, they're like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, you want to see the paper? It's right here. Right here. He gave this to me. It's right here. No one knows that. They would put Josh's uniform picture up, and they'd put Amber in a white shirt, accidentally pulling her jacket back, and they're like, look, she's trying to show cleavage. Really? That was one of the stories in the news, that Amber wasn't believable because she was fake. Amber had breast implants, so what?
If I didn't dress up enough for court, then I was trashy and obviously guilty. And if I did, then I was some hoity-toity, snooty, rich girl that had no remorse for her situation and dared to do her hair.
I have no problem telling you when Amber's wrong. And she has done some stupid stuff, but she wasn't a murderer.
For Amber to avoid a murder conviction, she had to convince the jury she was acting in self-defense.
It was the same weekend as my dad's wedding, so that's where the big fight came in, is because he, at the last minute, opted out of going to my dad's wedding and said he was going to Tennessee with all of his friends, some concert tour or something, but his intention was to go sell pills.
Earlier that morning, Josh had already broken a window in the flat.
I threw a laundry basket at it because he was mad because I was taking my dirty clothes and leaving his. And our argument just escalated from there, and we started pushing each other back and forth. He grabbed my shoulder. There were even pictures of the bruising. He was digging his hand into me. And when I pushed him off, and that's where the scratch came from. And he fell back, hit the wall or something, and then I was standing 2 or 3 feet away, and it all happened so fast that I remember pushing him back off of me, and then all of a sudden I remember looking at a broken window. And there's no way to explain how your mind tries to piece that together. And I ran to the window just in time to see him hit the concrete. And I ran out the door. All I could think was I have to get there. I didn't even know what floor it was. I remember kissing his cheek. That was already turning blue.
In April 2013, a jury found Amber Hilberling guilty of second-degree murder.
I could see that if an accident happens, that there's going to be payment to some degree. But murder? Did she push him? Yes. Did she mean to? No. Does anyone think in a million years you're going to fall out of a window? No. And if everyone's really honest with themselves, I guarantee you they've been in a push and shove with someone they love at some point. People do it. It's emotional. How do you change emotion?
Now aged 24, Amber has spent 3 years in a medium security prison in the heart of Oklahoma.
You have to build walls up around your heart, around your soul, around everything that matters to you, and live in a shell outside of all of that to survive this. Showing vulnerability in this type of place, it only gives people room to prey on you, more or less. So to avoid that, you kind of have to put air in your chest and walk around like you got this when you really don't got this.
Unlike male murderers, most women who kill don't have criminal histories. It's estimated between 40 and 80% of female murderers were acting in self-defense at the time. New Mexico has one of the highest rates of domestic abuse and violent crime in the United States.
We're all here because we made a mistake, and we have to live with it. My mistake was attempted murder. My husband. If I could go back and do it again, no, it wouldn't happen. Tempers wouldn't be lost, and I would have walked away, because that would have been much easier to do. And I never would have been inside a prison. And I was 49 years old when I was arrested. I'll be 58 when I walk out the door in December. That's a long time to spend in prison thinking about a mistake.
I shot my husband. I'm in here for shooting my husband. For abusing my kids. So.
Did he die?
Yes. Yes, that's why I got 20 years. It's like I was in prison at home and I came to prison to be free. That's pretty much the way my life was in that marriage. And I was in that marriage for 17 years. And I took a lot of stuff, but he drew the line when he harmed my babies. So, and I shot him with the gun. The only thing that I can say that my time has done is made me a stronger woman. And it's like, I know now not to have to depend on a man, you know what I mean? Now I can depend on myself.
One thing I've noticed from talking to many, many women and hearing their stories is they were beaten down. They got so far down that they didn't know how to get back up again. Or they didn't think that there was anybody caring enough to get back up for, until they realized that it was themselves.
Women almost never kill a stranger. In 99.999% of the time, the woman has a relationship with the victim.
But women's victims aren't always their husbands or boyfriends. Patricia Ignacio is serving 15 years for murdering her cousin.
Every day I think about it, you know what I mean? Like, was I really capable of doing it? Or was I not, you know what I mean? Or was it just something that came out of my anger of everything?
Patricia was brought up in the Navajo Nation, the largest Native American reservation. It's also one of the most deprived parts of the country.
I really don't remember my mom because she was an alcoholic. And she wasn't really there for me when I was growing up. So I didn't have no particular home. I was raised just among like different families. I was basically raised more into the system.
When Patricia was 19, she met her husband and had 3 children in as many years.
It was an abusive relationship, fighting and arguing, drinking, and then I had my kids, so I was paying more attention to my kids than to him, you know what I mean? So he would get mad.
She lived in a tent for almost a year, and the kids were just outside wandering around. And that's when the school called social service in, so the kids got picked up.
When she lost her kids, Patricia's life spiraled further out of control. She was arrested for being drunk and getting into fights.
I spent 21 days in county, and that same day when it happened, I just got out of county that morning. I just started drinking, hanging out, started getting high. And from then on, I guess my life was going too fast.
After leaving jail, Patricia went drinking with her cousin, Irene Armenta.
All I seen her was just a person I could just drink with. I just wanted to just drink and just bounce, you know what I mean? We didn't have nothing in common. The only thing that we had in common was the fact that she knew my family, and that was it, you know what I mean?
Just 6 hours after Patricia and Irene met, police were called to the scene of a brutal attack.
And this is the stone. What it actually is a piece of concrete. I took it off her head, turned it upside down to get a picture to see, and right now you can still see that there's some stains right here that are somewhat brown. That particular night, of course, it was bright red. This area here looks something like a tooth, kind of sharp. This was actually stuck into her skull. Somewhere about in here, there was actually an indentation in the skull where it had been embedded. The Navajo reservation is dry, meaning alcohol is not available on the reservation. That doesn't stop somebody from coming to a border town such as Farmington, for example, and buying alcohol and taking it back.
In November 2008, crime scene investigator Terry Eagle was called out to an area popular with street drinkers, following the discovery of a body.
Coming back to a scene like this after spending basically all night here is almost just a deja vu.
I've dealt with a lot of homicides in my career, and that one was pretty brutal.
Just the degree of injury that the body had sustained, you could tell somebody was really upset.
Judging by what I see in this area and by the fact that blood was located 16 feet away from where she was laying, this was something akin to a boxing match where it starts and stops, eventually ends up here. And as you can tell looking around today, there are many pieces of concrete of various sizes. In this case, Patricia Ignacio picks one up and literally, using blunt force, just beat Irene Newman's head in multiple blows. And that was indicated by the amount of blood spatter that was located around the ground here. We found it on leaves and sticks, and we even found blood as far away as on the corner of this fence over here at this point.
Within hours, police received an anonymous tip about a woman who'd been involved in a fight. Her name was Patricia Ignacio.
We had an argument. She went and told me that I was a bad mother, that I didn't even know how to take care of my kids. I think that's what got me mad. She was telling me that I was worthless, that I wasn't capable of loving, caring, or supporting my own kids, you know what I mean? And I don't know, it just got to the point where we just started shoving, pushing. We started hitting each other and whatever, you know what I mean? I think everything with my family, with my kids' dad, with my kids, it just all surfaced. And then I was on top of her, hitting her. I had blood just all over me. Yeah, I beat her to death, you know what I mean?
Patricia pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
I live with it constantly glued on me every day. If I could, I would trade a spot with her and she would still be here. All the things that she's missing out on is the same thing that I'm missing out on too. I missed out on 8 years of my kids' life.
Since she went to prison, Patricia's friend Louise has taken care of her children.
For so long, I wanted to take the kids away from her because the kids were going through a lot. And I thought, I can give them a better life and a better home. They deserve something better.
I'm really proud of my children because they're way different than I am. They're much smarter. They're really caring. I'm happy that they're being loved, being cared for. And with my friend having them, it makes me feel like I've done something positive with my life.
Patricia is due to be released in 6 years. She could then apply for guardianship of her children.
I would love to get to know them, but that doesn't mean I'm going to take them from my friend. I'm just going to ask them just one time if they want to live with me, they could, but I'm not going to force them. And if they want to stay with my friend, I understand, because that's what they know.
Patricia's situation is not unusual. 7 out of 10 women in American prisons have children on the outside. In Oklahoma, Amber Hilberling gave birth to her son Levi just 2 months after being arrested for murdering her husband.
You want to go cook, Levi? Let's go cook. Yay! Are you going to make me a good lunch?
Now nearly 5 years old, Levi Hilberling lives with his grandmother, Rhonda.
It's smoking.
Good. That means it's getting ready. It's getting hot.
Mimi, I'm making a buttermilk. Me.
Don't lick the jar this time. He's asked to call me Mom, and he wants to know why he can't call me Mom. And it's out of respect for Amber right now. It's a tough call. I mean, I haven't spoke to Amber about him saying that. She gets her feelings hurt so easy over little things because I'm getting the joy of raising him and she doesn't get that opportunity, so.
Mimi, now can we do that?
Nope, not until it starts boiling. Then you can put it in, but we're gonna wait till it bubbles. Look, again, look.
She resents me a little bit for it, and I resent her a little bit for it, but we understand that that's natural. Or when Levi was a little bit younger, he'd come in here for visit, and if he fell and scraped his knee or something, he ran to her. And that's, you know, I mean, that's like a slap in the face, a stab in the heart.
I know. What do you want for your birthday? Tell me what you want for your birthday. Okay, I'm not gonna get you anything. Levi started asking literally about 6 to 7 weeks ago for the first time, did my big daddy die? And I said yes, and he said, out of a window? And I said, yes. And he goes, well, is he in heaven? Yes. So yeah, the questions are starting to come. And this is where it's fixing to get really difficult. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, so what are you comfortable with when he starts asking more questions? I mean, what are we gonna do?
I don't know. I mean, how?
I mean, he has already said that it was an accident and that he fell from the window. I mean, well,
I'm never going to lie to him, ever. I'm never going to lie to him, and I always want to be upfront.
We've always thought if he asks a question, to answer the question.
but the counselor also told me not to
give extra information.
Not to give any extra.
Yeah.
I'll find out everything with time, when it's time.
Children are naive, but they're not dumb. I've talked to a lot of the women in here, both women that had sugar-coated their situation for their children, thinking that they were protecting them, and I've talked to women that have been upfront and honest from a very early age, and every single time, the answer was always honesty.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
It's Levi's 5th birthday. Though he visits Amber regularly, his father's family has cut off almost all ties.
Any child who has to grow up without a father, it's gonna be rough in the first place. And you know, what's gonna happen? Where's life gonna take Levi, you know? Is he gonna be able to deal with these emotions? What's gonna happen when he's 16 and, you know, has anger towards his parents for everything that happened?
He's at that age now where he's asking me on the phone when I can go to the beach with him and when I'm coming home from work, and those things are hard. And you know, I swallow it down and I try to suffice him with whatever answer I can come up with at the time, and then I go to my room and I cry for the rest of the night because it's just not fair.
Amber's long sentence is a result of being unable to persuade the jury she was acting in self-defense. It's such a common claim that some female killers use it to hide the truth.
We don't expect women to kill. And we often assume that if a woman kills, it somehow is the victim's fault. If the victim is a man, we assume that the man was abusive in some way, or he has done something to bring this out. We don't think women have this in them.
At around the time Amber was arrested in the neighboring state of Texas, another woman found her life spiraling out of control. Ana Trujillo was a 45-year-old mother of 2 and a former executive at Coca-Cola.
When you look at the house Anna was living in, and you realize that within a matter of 4 years she was homeless, it's really an illustration of how quickly her life plummeted and how far.
In 2009, Anna's second marriage fell apart, and she moved to downtown Houston.
After Anna moved to Houston, she started going man to man, and she was using the men for money. They were paying her rent, they were giving her cash. She had really become dependent dependent on her sexuality.
In 2012, Anna met 59-year-old Stefan Anderson. Within weeks, she'd moved into his apartment.
He was very intelligent, very charming. He seemed to be a very good person. And he completely fell in love with me. I always have loved shoes. And Stefan had a shoe fetish. He liked me wearing heels. That was his thing. He didn't ask for a lot of things, and I loved pleasing him.
It was a look that she was cultivating. It was that sexy Latina, the fun girl out on the town.
But things were about to take a turn for the worse. After a night out, Anna and Stefan had an argument that started in the back seat of a taxi.
Are you reporting an assault, ma'am?
Yes, he assaulted me. I hit him with my shoe and my ear bleeding. He started beating me up.
When Houston police received Anna Trujillo's desperate 911 call, they raced to her boyfriend's high-rise condo and walked into a slaughterhouse.
Murder by stiletto. Anna Trujillo faces life in prison after a Houston jury found her guilty of killing her boyfriend with a blue high heel. Dubbed the stiletto murder, prosecutors allege Trujillo hit Dr. Stefan Anderson in the head 25 times with her 5.5-inch heels. Trujillo claims self-defense.
In April 2014, 45-year-old Anna Trujillo stood trial for first-degree murder.
It was a very dramatic trial because the crime was a dramatic crime. At the center of this case, from the beginning to the end, was that high heel shoe.
I think female defendants and female murderers are much harder to prosecute because society doesn't want to believe that they are the aggressor. And then what happens usually happens behind closed doors, and it is hard to know the dynamics of every intimate relationship. Anna, from the moment she was interviewed by police, always claimed to be a victim of domestic violence.
And he grabbed me, and he wouldn't let me go, and he started wrestling with me. And then he got on top of me, and I couldn't breathe, and I was suffocating.
She was claiming that Dr. Anderson had abused her, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, and that she finally had to kill him in self-defense.
It is always going to be the focus of the trial, that it was either self-defense or sudden passion, because that's typically what it very often is.
As the only eyewitness in the case, everything rested on whether the jury believed Anna Trujillo's version of what happened that night.
I went upstairs, and when he came in, he was upset. And then he saw the suitcases, and he goes, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going to go see my family in the morning. We discussed this, remember? I'm just going, and you're gonna come with me next week." And he became furious. He changed completely, like he wasn't himself anymore. And I really got afraid. At that point, he started to slam me against the wall. He took my hands, I'm beating him against the wall.
A 5-year-old with common sense could have seen what happened. He confronted her and was grabbing her by the shoulders.
As he put his hands on me, I was falling back. And I think that's when I grabbed a hold of his hair or something.
If you get on YouTube or something, watch girl fights, that's what they always do. They go for the hair.
We were rolling around, and he was on top of me, and I couldn't breathe, and he was suffocating me, and he wouldn't let me go, and I was just saying, "Please let me go." And I reached over, and I found the shoe, and he was on top of me, and I was just hitting him with the shoe however I could, and I was going, "Please get off of me," and I was just crying. I was like, "Please," and he was just like laughing. It didn't even seem like it was fazing him.
She said that she was suffocating, and she used whatever weapon was at hand. It was an obvious case of sudden passion. It was a fight gone bad.
We know that the altercation, the argument happened at 2:13.
The challenge for the prosecution was disproving Anna's testimony that she acted in self-defense.
We as prosecutors don't always have this great forensic evidence that television tells us that we should have. And quite frankly, juries come to the courthouse expecting to have a CSI effect. And Chris Duncan gave us the CSI effect.
When blood travels, it travels in a sphere. And when it lands on a surface, it collapses. And so we can see, because of the shape of the stain on the surface, what direction it was traveling and actually what angle it was traveling. So when we look at the bloodstains on the wall, the stains are circular in nature, which indicates that they impacted at a 90-degree angle. Everything just says the complainant was on the ground, close to the carpeted surface. There was nothing in between him and the carpet when he was being attacked.
It was a game changer for us. He could tell us the story of what happened in that apartment.
Pants that we've documented in State's Exhibit number 150 and 151 are the jeans worn by Ms. Trujillo the night of the incident. What these jeans tell us is that she is straddling the complainant where the blood was on him, which is around the head and on the chest. This blood is saturated over time on the insides of the thighs. And I believe that blows were imparted onto the complainant while she was on top of him with his head between her thighs.
You know what's great? Is you can base your verdict, your sole verdict, on science. You know from the crime scene that he was on the ground as all of the strikes, all 25 plus strikes, were yielded by her. They took an x-ray of the actual stiletto heel, and it was quite powerful because you see that it was actually a metal rod. It was basically the equivalent of an ice pick.
We believe, based on when we recovered the shoe, that she was actually holding it like this, and that she came down on his head and his arms and his chest this way, and that she continued to strike him over 30 times in the head while he laid there defenseless.
After a 2-week trial, the jury took just 4 hours to return their verdict.
Mr. Trujillo, please stand. We, the jury, find the defendant, Anna Trujillo, also known as Anna Fox, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment, signed foreman of the jury.
They gave me life.
So when do you due for parole?
In 30 years. It's not the sentence or the time, it's that they have put me as a murderer. They convicted me and said that I murdered him. I did not murder him. I loved him. And I would never hurt him, despite of what it says or what everyone says. It's just say so. They just want to discredit me, and they just want to make me the person that I'm not.
Anna Trujillo was not a victim of domestic violence. Anna Trujillo was not a victim of anything. And my fear was that she was going to set all victims of domestic violence back, and that people may not believe a woman that comes forward and says that.
The claim of self-defense was also rejected in the case of Amber Hilberling, who pushed her husband out of a window to his death. Her sentence runs till 2036.
I've never tried to make it sound like he's just the big bad wolf and I'm Little Red Riding Hood that's running for her life. It wasn't like that. We were both young and we were both selfish in our emotions because we were young, and I think that if it would have happened later on in life when we were both a little bit more grown up, then yeah, I think it would have been, it would have been happily ever after.
For the last 2 years, Amber's been in a relationship with someone new.
Patricia, she is my girlfriend. We've been together for 2 years. She's taught me more in 2 years than I've learned in my entire incarceration. I mean, she's somebody that, you know, I mean, I know on a personal, intimate level, and she's the only person that knows any of this stuff that I talk about. You know, it's that one person that can see you cry, and it's not, you know, it's not shameful.
The female prison population in America is 8 times larger today than it was 35 years ago, far outstripping the increase in the male population.
I was really shocked when I came because there is so much tragedy and drama and stuff that, you know, women do go through. And it's like, I know if I would have done a different route, I would have been better off.
There's not a woman here who doesn't regret actions. Whether it's that they did something cold-bloodedly and lost their children because of it, or because they hurt somebody, or because they hurt themselves. They have to live with the regret. There's a lot of really, really good women in here. I'm not saying there's not bad too, but there's a lot of really good women in here who deserve a second chance.